Okay, well, we can get started. First, I'd like to welcome everybody for coming to our funding opportunity webinar. I appreciate your guys' time and dedication. Also, I appreciate all our presenters today, Sean, Becky, and sorry, one second. And sorry, Sean, Becky, and Trish, thank you guys for attending today. I appreciate your guys' time. They will all be presenting today on their specialties. And whether it's funding for resilient agriculture landscape program, water sources, or value added, we really appreciate your guys' time. As producers in this area would benefit strongly from your guys' insight, whether it be expenses, projects, or application insight. So first, I'd like to welcome Becky. Becky is here to present on RALP for us, for our producers in this area.
Hi, just going to share my screen. Okay, so thank you for the introduction. Hi all, I'm a program access liaison for the Hi all, I'm the program access liaison for the Resilient Agricultural Landscape Program, also known as your RALP PAL. Over the next 20 minutes or so, we'll review the program and the funding that may be available to you. We'll cover the program's highlights to help you understand whether you're eligible and may have potential projects on your farm or ranch, and we'll point out a couple of nuances. Most importantly, in the end, we'll show you how to get the one-on-one help for your application. RALP springs from a long list of agri-environmental partnerships between the federal, provincial, and territorial governments. You may recognize some of the predecessors' names. We had the Agricultural Policy Framework from 2003 to 08, Growing Forward programs from 08 to 18, and the CAP program from 2018 to 2023. The current partnership framework is a Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership, or Sustainable CAP. It's a 5-year investment of $3.5 billion, with the federal government providing 60% and the provincial government providing 40% of the funding. Sustainable CAP is the umbrella program from which several programs are delivered. One such program under the Sustainable CAP umbrella is the Resilient Agricultural Landscape Program, or RALP. It's a 5-year, $508 million investment here in Alberta. Currently, applications are being accepted for the first 3 years, 2023 through 25, with 3-year agreements. RALP aims to help producers implement beneficial management practices, BMPs, that help the farm improve carbon sequestration, water quality, and biodiversity enhancement. It's important to note that RALP will be making some carbon sequestration calculations, so to avoid duplication of carbon credits, projects enrolled under RALP are not eligible for carbon credits or greenhouse gas offsets for the term of their agreement. This may include other agri-environmental programs like ALICE or independent carbon registries. First screening test, are you eligible? If you're a farmer or rancher and you produce a minimum of $25,000 in farm commodities annually, you're eligible. If you're a grazing reserve association or community pasture, you're eligible. If you're an Indigenous farmer or rancher, you're eligible. You must also have a valid EFP. You don't need one to apply, but you must obtain that EFP certification before the end of your 3rd-year term. So what types of projects can you do? We have 4 main categories. There's pasture management, cropland conversion, tree establishment, and wetlands. The program had some updates for 2024, so please review the terms and conditions to ensure that the information you have is current. Now let's dive into each category. First, we have riparian area management of the green zone around the water bodies. Your project must include one of these things, but you can do any or all things. We must have access fencing or an offsite watering system, watercourse crossing, or technical support. Something to note is that technical support of a PAG or CCA is an eligible expense for every single BMP. So consider engaging an expert to help you design your project and troubleshoot as you go over the terms of the agreement. Here we have rotational grazing with the emphasis on these 4 principles: balance forage supply and livestock demand, distribute grazing pressure, provide rest, and avoid grazing during sensitive times. For this BMP, the minimum requirement is cross fencing. It can be barbed, page, or electric. And we ask that you please refer to the BMP cost table for the different cost maximums. Perimeter fencing is not eligible. Next, we have the addition of perennial legumes into existing tame pasture and hayfields through drilling, broadcasting, or mixing with mineral application. Projects must include legume seed and seeding costs, and don't forget to plan for 3 years. You'll want to add a little extra to reseed in years 2 and 3 in case of a poor catch. Annual cropland conversion to native or tame forages reduces inputs on marginal land, reduces erosion, and increases soil carbon. Projects must include perennial forage seed and seeding costs, but again, you can do all or anything in between. There's a bit of a bump in value for native forage over tame forage through opportunity costs due to higher risks with the establishment and higher potential value of EGS. Seeding costs are valued at $30 per acre and are designed to cover your labor and equipment. If you want to do ag lime, soil testing is required. And it's interesting to note that perimeter fencing is eligible for this BMP. This BMP is for your saline areas, water runs, and such. If you're finding that you're dumping tons of input and barely getting a crop, it's probably a good place to do this BMP. Project minimum is forage seed and seeding costs with the option of additional enhancements. Again, $30 an acre for seeding costs, covering labor and equipment, plus the forage seed. Soil testing is a requirement if you're applying for ag lime. Intercropping is 2 annual crops planted together and taken to harvest. For this BMP, projects must include at least pulse seed and seeding costs. One of the crops must be a pulse. And don't forget to budget for seed and seeding costs for each of the 3 years. RALP will again pay $30 per acre for seeding costs plus the cost of your pulse seed. They will not pay for cereal or oil seed. You must do the intercropping every year for 3 years, but you can change the field each year. Clearly describe this in your plan, in your application. Again, perimeter fencing is eligible. Cover crop cocktail includes 3 or more annual crops planted together. Minimum requirements is 3 varieties. 1 must be a legume or a pulse, and it must be carried on for 3 years, but it can be on different fields. Again, don't forget the cost for the seeds for the 3 years. Tree planting. Shelter belts must be new or eco buffers must be widened. Rejuvenation of existing shelter belts is not eligible. The project must include the purchase of trees or shrub seedlings. And on a special note, we already know that 2024 is expected to be a drought year, so don't forget to include a mulch and an irrigation system because the trees will need extra care. There is a cost maximum of $5 per tree or shrub, and that includes materials, labor, and equipment. Pollinator strips provide habitat and food for native pollinators, increasing biodiversity. The project must include purchasing trees, shrubs, grass, or wildflower seed with the following minimums. Needs to plant more than 1 species. The project is located on eligible acres of existing cropland and margins. It's not eligible on pasture or rotational grazing land. For this BMP, you must also include a management schedule for maintenance. And this is a great example of where your PAG or CCA will be very helpful. Another note is that annual flowering commodity crops are not eligible. Wetlands. For this, a completion report is required showing the number of acres and date of completion. You must participate in the Alberta Environment and Protected Areas Wetland Replacement Program, and you must make application for both programs and complete the project in the same year as the application. A special note that this BMP has different application forms, program cycles, and payment calculations. Always check the funding list in detail to ensure the expense is eligible for the BMP you're applying for and that you've selected the best BMPs for your project. Details such as new water developments are not eligible as they are covered under the water program, and soil testing is required if you're requesting funding for ag lime. These are just a couple examples of program nuances. If you have any questions, get the support of a PAL for clarification. And the big one, how is funding calculated? Implementation costs are out-of-pocket expenses, which are reimbursed at 100%. Materials on hand, which are eligible, include fencing material. This is components only, not existing fences. Seed, estimate at the current market value. Trees and shrubs that you've purchased within 6 months of November 1st. Now we move on to opportunity costs, which are estimate the profit of that an applicant forgoes by implementing a practice change. This applies to only a few BMPs. For instance, converting annual cropland to perennial forage may differ based on the expected risk for establishment, such as converting to native forages has a higher opportunity cost than converting to tame forages. The impact adjustment is an additional payment based on evaluating the potential impact of the practice change. Most projects are eligible for an additional 5 to 15% above the implementation cost. To apply for this adjustment, you must check the box on the application form to say that you want the impact adjustment. If you're not sure if your project is eligible, tick the box anyways, and the assessment team will let you know if your BMP qualifies. So here are some BMPs with cost maximums, and you may find it helpful to apply for the cost maximums when making up your application to simplify it. However, your final payment will be adjusted if your receipted expense come in lower. For example, if you're engaging a PA to consult throughout the 3 years and you're not sure how much they'll end up charging in the end, apply for the maximum of $2,000. And if you only use $1,000 worth of services, RALP will adjust your final payment to match the invoice result. For some categories, such as fencing and seeding that include equipment and labor, the cost maximum assumes that your work is essential but can be hard to quantify otherwise. So an example of this is if your receipts for fencing materials work out to $7 a meter, RALP will still pay you the $10 per meter because they recognize that you're using your time and equipment. If, however, you hire a fencing contractor and their invoice, including materials and labors, comes in at $9.50 a meter, RALP will adjust your final payment to reflect that invoice total. Fencing and seed are considered for materials on hand, and trees and shrubs can be on hand, but must have an invoice dated within 6 months of the intake year. For example, 6 months before February 1st. In general, you can't get paid twice for the same thing, and funders don't get to double count their impacts, such as carbon credits. If they're separate projects on different parts of the land, that wouldn't be stacking. And since the program is government funded, you cannot stack government funds. And since the program counts estimated carbon reductions, you can't let another fundraiser say they've also reduced the same carbon. There is an exception to government funding stacking for wetland projects completed under the Wetland Replacement Program that have already received landowner payments. These are still eligible for RALP funding, although the projects completed under the WRP must also have been completed within the same intake year as the RALP application. So we have lots of funding available. The minimum application amount is $2,000. Most applicants have a $150,000 maximum over the 3-year term. And groups and Indigenous applicants can apply for the maximum of $300,000 over the 3-year term. When to apply? Now through to the end of November 30th, 2024, and wetland applications are being accepted through to January 31st, 2025. Expenses and projects are retroactive in the same year of the project application. For example, if your project is installed in March and supplies were purchased in February, but the producer doesn't apply until August, that's okay. However, they won't be eligible if they bought supplies in January, or you can't establish the project before the deadline of November 30th, 2024. Those expenses will not be eligible. BMPs must be established by November 30th, 2024 and maintained until November 30th, 2026. Expenses and projects are retroactive in the same year of the project application. So a few notes on the timeline. We saw in a previous slide that processing your application can take several weeks, so please be patient. Failure to implement or maintain BMP activities during the 3-year term will result in a grant reduction, and payment is made in 2 parts, 50% upfront and 50% or the actual remaining balance at the end of the term. You must submit an interim report and a final report with receipts to calculate the final balance due. So we have several application tips. So multiple BMPs can be applied for on the same application. Multiple BMPs can be done on the same land location. Please review the funding list to ensure that expenses are eligible for the BMP, and if a cost maximum is applicable. Plan your budget to cover expenses for the entire 3-year term, and projects on public land need approval from a provincial rangeland agrologist. All activities must be implemented by November 30th of the intake year and maintained in years 2 and 3. Each BMP must have an implementation date. The application must match the name on submitted invoices and receipts. That's a big one. Include quotes, invoices with your application to streamline the review and approval process. Whoops. And applications must have a handwritten signature, and receipts must be included with the dates of the program term. Applications are reviewed as received and evaluated according to the eligibility criteria and funding availability. Incomplete applications will be returned. Funding is not guaranteed until the application has been approved. And wetland categories has a separate application form and intake cycle. Verification is designed to ensure the project is in the ground as planned. I highly recommend that you also take photographs or maintain additional records, especially for projects which may be transient or difficult to see during random verification. For example, if you implement a rotational grazing project using electric fence and your cows are in that pasture in May, but then you roll up the fence and move them on to another area, and the verifier happens to stop in October, some photographs or a calendar entry showing your moves will allow any discrepancies to be quickly resolved. Extremely helpful. Most importantly, we have one-on-one support available. Call us or email us to reach a RALP pal who will support you with your application. Whether you just need a quick question answered or want somebody to review your application before you submit it, or if you want to walk through the entire process from start to finish, we can help. Please reach out to us at 866-310-RALP or info@ralp.ca. You can also visit the program at alberta.ca, Resilient Agricultural Landscape Program. Thank you for your time and interest, and I look forward to helping you navigate through the application process. Throw that back up there for you. Are there any questions?
Yeah, so if there's any questions at this time, please speak up, or if you want to type them in the chat, I can be a moderator.
Bernard here. I do have a question. So my question is got to do with the eligibility criteria. So with the $25,000, I guess I'm kind of looking at the word produce $25,000 versus generate 25,000 in sales. Like I've seen different wording here and there. So I'm just kind of curious. Like we have a small cow calf operation and we're close to 25,000, but then if we include things like production of hay that we then turn around and feed, the value of that hay pushes us over the threshold. I just want to make sure I'm interpreting that right.
Okay.
That
Farm commodity. So it would include 25,000 gross in farm commodity, and that would be off your previous year's tax return. Giselle, I see you're on the call. Do you have anything further to add to that?
Good, stop around, we'll discuss pasture stuff.
Art, you need to mute.
All right.
So does that answer your question, Bernard? So it's 25,000 in gross commodity.
okay? So the production of hay for my operation doesn't really count towards it then.
Yes, it would, because it's
Yes, it would.
production
Okay,
on your farm. It's going through your bank account and
right.
you're reclaiming it on your taxes, right?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how that's working. I just know that if I was to attach a value to the hay I feed my animals that I make,
Oh,
that's like I'm running the cow calf operation, but then I'm also producing my own hay, which I'm not paying myself for, but it still has a value.
yes. And I understand that. And you're not the first person to ask. This is a common question. So I did reach out to the team and I was told that there's quite a hard line there, and it's 25,000 gross income off your previous year or your most current tax return. Because I do understand what you're saying, but we are looking at that dollar value. Yeah. Is there anything else?
There was a question for the annual crop conversion to forage. Are you able to underseed forage crop to an annual crop?
I will have to look into that. Could you please repeat that?
For the annual crop conversion to forage, are you able to underseed a forage crop to an annual crop?
Okay. I will look into that and get back to you with that.
So
Sorry.
that's Belinda asked that. It's also in the chat too for
Okay, I'll pop over there. Yeah, stop sharing.
Are there any more questions from anybody? We will have time likely at the end for more questions as well.
Belinda, could you please put in your email so I can get back to you?
I also have it too.
Do you? Okay, great. Thanks. I'll grab it from you, Jose.
Yeah, between the two of us, so we'll get it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so thank you for that quick presentation. I appreciate the time. For everyone, in case they missed it, the contact number for that is info@ralp.ca for an email address, and then the phone number is 1-866-310-RALP. I'll make sure it gets added in again and sent to everyone individually. But this is a call center made for you guys to call in. So if you're ever in questions, don't hesitate to contact that number. Next, I would like to welcome Trish. Trish will be presenting on our on-farm value added part of the SCAP. So welcome, Trish. Thank you.
I was talking to myself there. I was muted. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, you can.
Okay, perfect. So hi, my name is Trish Budnick. I'm a grant specialist with the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership Value Added Streams. And so we'll talk about a couple of programs that we offer. One of them is the on-farm and the other is value added. I'm going to talk about both of them because just in case you know someone or perhaps you have some expansion plans in the future to move some type of value added operation off the farm, then you know about the programs. So she's already mentioned that the program runs in 5-year increments, and those are between the federal, provincial, territorial governments on a cost share program. This current 5-year framework, it really focuses on capacity expansion, job creation, increased sales revenue, and competitiveness. So this is a shift from the previous framework, which was about creating and getting new products to new markets. Okay, so to begin, we'll just take an overview of these programs. There's 3 that my area focuses on, but we'll primarily focus on the value added and the on-farm value added programs. So these programs support the growth of Alberta's value added food and bioindustrial processors. Again, that focuses increasing company sales, increasing production capacity, expanding market opportunities, and creating jobs in the province. The on-farm value added program supports diversification and growth through investments that support our primary producers in adding value to their agricultural products. So again, we're focusing on that sales growth, your production capacity, and the ability to create jobs. A value added product. So this is an important definition for our program. And it is that it's a product that has been transformed or upgraded into a new or upgraded value added product. So it's changed in some way. So previous years, the CAP program to what's happening now in our current framework. Previously, the economy was slowing, so we wanted to focus on that supporting of the economic recovery. Whereas now we're moving into that. Let's plan ahead for the future growth, diversification, that capacity expansion that we're hoping to see. We have streamlined our product or project selection. So previously, everything was scored against merit criteria, where now we have 2 streams, Stream A and Stream B, where Stream A is any project that is has a maximum grant ask of 50,000 or less. Previously, everything just came in under one application and it was anything up to 250,000 in a grant ask. So now we have those 2 streams and they are assessed differently based on how much money is being requested. So Stream B, we go from anywhere from $50,001 to a maximum grant of $250,000. So those 2 streams are still on one application. However, based on how much you're asking for, will determine which stream you fall into. Another change, so that definition of the value-added product that I mentioned earlier, we've expanded the definition to emphasize that it does need to be a substantial transformation in the product. So, for example, if you are just cleaning your wheat, that's not a value add. If you were milling the wheat, creating flour, then we have a transformation that's occurred. So it's a significant and substantial transformation or enhancement in order to qualify as the value added product. So it has to go beyond your basic and normal handling or storage. So From the terms and conditions, how it reads is that a value-added product is one that has been transformed or upgraded through physical, chemical, or thermal means. Products that have been merely cleaned, bagged, handled, or stored are not considered value-added products. So the programs are highly subscribed. There's a lot of applications that come into them. So these definitions help us narrow down and focus on those value-added products and projects. So the value added, again, not entirely relevant to this group, but we're going to go over it just because for your awareness and understanding of the programs and what's offered. So here we've got our eligible applicants are going to be food processors and bioindustrial processors. They are going to be marketing their value-added product through wholesale distribution channels to arm's length customers. So they cannot be just selling directly from one place. It needs to be through multiple different channels. They can't sell exclusively through a on-premise or single company owned retail outlet. For the value-added program, we do have a $100,000 gross sales revenue required for Stream B. Stream A does not need to meet that 100,000 in global gross sales. However, they do need to be selling. It does need to be an active business that has already been creating a value-added product. This past year, we did see some changes to our funding list. So the funding list is what gives a little bit more detail on the types of expenses that are included. Things that were added, limited training was added. So if a company was adopting a new food safety program or new technology, they could hire an outside sales or trainer to come in and train their staff on how to run those equipment or run the food safety program. We also included first run for labels, the printing that goes along with that, and brand design. So we expanded some of those areas that can be claimed. It's important to remember when submitting an application that quotes or invoices are required to be submitted at the time of the application. And again, that allows us to make sure that we're approving eligible items. So we do an initial eligibility assessment of those items when you apply. The final assessment is, of course, based on what the submission looks like. What did you actually purchase and do? And assessment is based on that. Okay, here's the good stuff that you're here for. The on-farm value added program. So to be eligible here, you must be a primary producer. You are an individual or a corporation registered in Alberta. You're operating in Alberta, or you can establish to the satisfaction of the minister that you will be operating in Alberta. Sometimes we have companies that come from outside of Alberta and start business here. You need to be responsible for the input costs for crops, bees, or livestock. And again, we have that same revenue criteria of $25,000 worth of commercial agriculture. So that is your sales. Do you have at least 25,000 worth of sales annually? You cannot be a landlord whose only interest in the crop bee cattle operation is ownership of the land. So you have to be the one that's actually actively farming that land or raising the cattle. And the value add is past harvest or slaughter of the agricultural product. So the act of harvesting is not considered value add for the definition, as is the same with slaughter. That's not considered value add for the definition. So the funding list provides more information on the types of expenses that are eligible, and again, that current funding list was expanded to include limited training as an eligible expense. So you can bring in a third-party trainer and submit that. So again, can't stress the importance enough of submitting quotes and invoices with your application. These really help us to make a determination if the expense would be eligible so that you don't have a surprise at the end of the application process when you're actually submitting for payment and submitting your final report. Um, it's important to note as well that this is a reimbursement only program. So we only do a payment when you have completed your project and you're submitting your invoices and final report. Then we base our payment at that time. The other thing to note is that your invoices and quotes, your proof of payment, those need to fall within the program term. So for example, this year we were accepting expenses from April 1st of 2023 to March 15th of 2024. So any expense that you want to claim and apply for needs to fall within that program term. So there are program activities, types of activities that would fall under an eligible activity. Processing capacity expansion. So this would include the purchase of processing equipment, food safety equipment, third-party engineering related to processing, or software systems to assist in processing. That could include like an inventory system for managing the sales of your product. Food safety improvement remains one of our primary areas. So this may include the development and implementation of a food safety system, new product and process development. So this could include sensory and shelf life testing, attribute identification, environmental product declarations, non-food product regulation studies, scale-up trials, formulation development, processing improvement practices, and the design of packaging and labels. Under the pillar of market development and access, this could include feasibility studies, a market readiness assessment, marketing and export plans, the design of market support material for new products and new market launch, capital investment strategy development, a first-time certification audit for a food safety system, development of an initial online presence for the purpose of e-commerce. We don't look at things like Facebook ads or regular ongoing website maintenance, those kinds of things. We're assisting with that initial online presence. But there is help with enhancing or expanding an online marketing or sales platform. We help with in-store or in-market product demonstrations, trade show and conference registration fees, including the booth rental. And so that helps for those who are accessing new markets or launching new products. So it helps you to go to those trade shows. So our new intake is expected to be in early spring, probably April. We'll expect it to open. For details on the programs, I would recommend you visit the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership in Alberta website. And from there, you'll get different tiles that you can click on to give you that specific information about all of the SCAP programs, including the program we just heard about, the Resilient Agricultural Landscape Program is also one of those tiles. Additionally, towards the bottom of the page is a place where you can enter your email address. So then you would be subscribing to program updates, and that would include when the program opens. So you get a bit of some lead time before the program opens. The programs are typically only open for about 6 weeks. So you do want to be looking for them and aware that they're coming, and also prepared by way of reviewing the past year's terms and conditions, funding list, and the application, so that you're a little bit aware of what types of things we would typically be looking for. Depending on the year, there are some changes from each year, each program term. So just to stay kind of in the loop with what it used to look like, and then there will still be some potential changes. If you have any specific questions about the program, you can contact us by emailing s-cap.valueaddedprograms@gov.ab.ca. That is a shared email box that is monitored by the grant specialists who can answer your questions via email, or we can arrange a phone call to go over your project, give you some additional support and information as to what might be eligible, and just answer really any questions that you might have. So we're there to help. I mentioned this before, but just some quick tips. Make sure you include those quotes for the line items. So we have two sections, both the capital expenses, which can be reimbursed at 25% of the cost. Be sure to do a conversion for if you're ordering from overseas or from the States, make sure you're converting those quotes into Canadian funds and applying in Canadian funds. So you're maximizing your grant capabilities. Spend time with the funding list. Make sure you're requesting eligible items. Refer to the terms and conditions for what activities would be ineligible, and to ensure, again, you're going for those eligible activities and expenses. You'll want to look at what the minimum eligibility criteria is in the terms and conditions. So if you're requesting items that exceed $50,000, you'll want to refer to the merit criteria for Stream B. So that's broken out in the terms and conditions as to what the merit criteria is for each Stream A and Stream B, because they are assessed differently. So I mentioned that the capital expenses can be reimbursed at 25%. Non-capital expenses, such as those attribute identification, online market development, trade shows, there is some travel that's also eligible to be applied for. Those are reimbursed at 50% of the cost. So you've got 25% for processing equipment and 50% for non-capital expenditures. We're always interested in improving the program and hearing from you. What is your feedback? How did the program work for you? What would you like to see change, or what could we do better? We do want to hear from you. Last year we did send out a survey to our applicants, but certainly something you can always send to that email box as well, for us to learn about what our producers needing from the program. And that brings me to the end of our presentation. Is there any questions? I'll just go back to that email address box so you could still see it.
Any questions from anybody? Looks like not.
Okay, well, if anything comes up, please feel free to send us an email and we will get back to you. Otherwise, thanks for the invitation to be here today and the opportunity to talk about the value-added programs.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so thanks, Trish. Next up we have Sean. Sean will be presenting on the farm water supply stream. I thank you for your time. Sean, and please enlighten us on water.
Okay, audio check, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna start. Okay. Yeah, so thanks for the introduction. And as mentioned, my name is Sean Elgert. I'm a water specialist for the on-farm water supply section with agriculture and irrigation based in Barrhead, Alberta. We do have a water specialist in Peace River, Dan Benson, and we have 3 others, but any one of us can answer questions for the on-farm water supply stream, as well as other technical questions as well by calling 310 Farm. I'm just gonna advance the screen here. So there are 2 program streams under the water program, the on-farm irrigation stream and the on-farm water supply stream. I work in the second one there.
Sorry, Sean, to interrupt quick. I don't know what's going on, but your screen is not being shared on my computer.
Yes, so again, I work in the second stream. But I want to ask people if they have an existing agricultural irrigation operation, if you can please type in chat, or at the end of my presentation on the on-farm water supply stream, if they can just speak up. Otherwise, I won't present on that. Again, that's if you have an existing irrigation operation. If you have questions about, starting up irrigation operation, you can contact the irrigation stream, which is, I'll provide those contacts at the end of the section here. So go back to advancing. So the purpose is to encourage existing irrigation producers to replace, upgrade older equipment to new efficient systems and equipment through financial incentives, and to improve the efficiency of. Sorry, I'm going to skip past the irrigation stream, as I said here. Sorry about that. Okay, so to the on-farm water supply stream, the purpose is to support better management of risks to water quality and supplies and adaptation to climate variability, and to support agricultural producers in securing, protecting, and managing sustainable constructed water sources. And the eligibility is for agricultural producers that make at least $25,000 worth of farm commodities annually and are liable to pay Alberta income tax or corporate tax on income from the production of farm commodities. But you do have to be an active farmer. You can't claim rental income towards the $25,000. And the program also supports Indigenous applicants. The standard incentive activities include new or expanded constructed water source developments. For example, wells, dugouts, spring developments, dams, tie-ins to a multi-user water supply pipeline, cisterns that are permanent and unshared pipelines, as well as off-source watering systems on a new eligible water source development. For example, a new well that's also applied for under the program. Another example would be for a dugout, a newly constructed or expanded dugout. And for the cost shares and maximums, we provide a 25% grant payout. That means the applicant has to pay 75% of the costs up front. And this does not include GST. The applicant will also pay for the GST as well. Also, we pay up to $7,500 per new water source development, up to a total maximum of $15,000 over the program term, which is April 1st, 2023 till March 31st, 2028. So in near about a month, it will be at the end of our first year, the 5-year program. The special incentive activities include well decommissioning. We pay 50% for 1 well being plugged, 60% for 2, 75% for 3 or more. And we pay a maximum of $2,000 for most situations. As far as well pit conversions go, they're the same as above for the payouts. And we also pay for wetland assessments. So for example, if a person is digging a dugout in a wetland, it may require a wetland assessment. It doesn't always require one, but if it does, we pay 50% up to $2,000 for that. As far as the applications go, you only submit the application once the project is completed and all expenses have been incurred and paid. The projects have to meet regulatory requirements and program terms and conditions. Applications are considered on a case-by-case basis, assessed against program eligibility criteria. They're subject to program funding constraints. And it's important to note here, that's why this is in bold and underlined, that applicants must contact an agricultural and irrigation water specialist, such as myself or the others in my group, before starting the following projects to confirm the project meets legislative and program requirements. So the projects that require this paperwork to be done before they start construction or purchase anything are dugouts, spring developments, and dams. I also want to mention that some water wells may require licensing. They can only apply for a license after it's a proven well, but we will require to see proof that one has submitted an application. So if the well does need to be licensed, and an example of that would be if it's for livestock alone. If it does have to be licensed, the well has to be drilled to licensable standards. So one should tell their driller that what the use is going to be for. And here is the contact information for the two streams, the irrigation stream and the on-farm water supply stream. And again, if you want to talk to a water specialist, you can call the 310 farm number and ask to speak to a water specialist. And if, you know, one of us may not be in, but we cover for all over the province, any one of us can take calls. So if you, again, if you do have an existing irrigation operation, please let us know. Can't see the chat right now, but there I opened it. Or speak up. Otherwise, I won't present on that. So if you have any questions, please ask your questions.
Are there any questions quickly? Bernard, you had sent in the group that you can't see. What was it in particular you couldn't see?
It was just pertaining to the presentation earlier, but that's sorted out now.
Oh, okay, perfect. Do you have any other questions? Does anyone have any questions?
I might add an answer because I heard there was a question before regarding sampling.
Yes.
Should I answer that question?
Yes, he's here today.
Okay. Yeah, so if people want to know where to take or get their water analyzed for potable water, the question was, so that's for usually domestic usage and maybe some other cases, but if it's for domestic usage, they can go to their local health unit and they'll pick up 2 bottles, one for a standard chemical analysis and one for a trace metals analysis. And it's paid for by the government, but some counties or MDs may charge a minor courier fee. But one should also ask what day that they will receive the samples, because you don't want your sample sitting there for too long, because it could, you know, affect the analysis. So again, that's for untreated domestic water use. If the water is being treated for domestic usage, or if it's non-domestic usage, you'll have to go to a private laboratory, and you can look in the yellow pages for that. And if you need more help, you can always call a water specialist. And I also want to put in a bit of a plug for the Working Well workshop. We do talk more about that issue and other issues for water wells. That is it.
Any other questions for anyone? Dewey, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I don't really even know if I'm on here, but I guess I must be.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's helpful. Plus, I have some contacts now, like that I can, you know, if I need more information or need to be directed certain places. I didn't realize that Health Unit did anything other than coliform testing, but am I correct in this in assuming that they do analyses as well for quality?
Yes, Yeah, certainly. Yeah, the base test they usually do initially is the coliforms, total coliforms. But if you want to talk about domestic usage, yes, it's important for the microbiology, but it's also important for the standard chemicals and the trace metals as well to, see if there's any issues, any problems you may have.
Okay, that's really good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, they've actually, it's great to have those trace metals analysis too, because there could be some problems with that, and they haven't always done that. It's only been some years that they've been doing that now.
Okay.
Awesome. If there's no other questions, so anyways, thank you everyone for coming. I appreciate your time and just the insight you can give. Additionally, I just wanted to add a few things myself. So when it comes to EFPs, NAPERA, we have 2 staff members that can assist you with your environmental farm plan. So when you're looking to do this SCAP stuff and your EFP is required, either because you haven't had one or needs to be renewed, we are here to help you with that. You can either stop in our office, call in a time, or you can get an EFP started on their website. And if you're in our area, we will be notified on that to be your tech. Also, just a side note, this isn't EFP or SCAP related, but RDARD has come out now with their funding opportunity that for off-CAF, it'll open up on March 1st. So just wanted to also let everyone know about that. But yeah, so thank you, Becky, Trish, and Sean. I appreciate you guys' time. I kind of jotted down a little bit of your guys' contact info. If there's anything else for info-wise, contact numbers, please throw them in the chat, and then I will send them off to everyone that attended the event today too, additionally. And then, yeah, upcoming events for NAPERA, just wanted to give a little shout out there. We are going to be doing an off-CAF information session. I'm just waiting for verification from ARDAR in that. Our North Peace Applied Research Association AGM is on March 27th, and our Farmer Appreciation Night is on April 12th. So both events, we have speakers. Our AGM, we will have people from a brewery in Valley View come up called Crazy Goat Brewery. They're going to come up and present their story on how they became to be. And then for Farmer Appreciation Night, we're getting comedian Doug Arden to come up and for entertainment for the producers in this area. So come on out. It'll be a great thing. Last but not least, if there is enough interest, I will host another EFP workshop this year. I had one in January, but I wouldn't mind holding one in mid-April if there's interest for it. People that are doing their SCAP applications. But yeah, I'd like to say thank you and once again, thank Sean, Trish, and Becky for your guys' time and all attendees that have attended. Last chance for questions if anybody has, but if not, you now have your contacts to contact. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks for having me.